and they created stories within those change of events, which became myths and part of the culture of the people. And so then I thought, well, Amazon. So I started doing those quite a while ago now. And again, I have tried to sort of. I did do once of the death of an Amazon, thinking that would be it. I've had enough. But it didn't. I had it here in the show, but you know, it turned out it wasn't. I hadn't really. There was still a lot for it in me, and I like them because they are warriors, female warriors, and it's not particularly sort of anything to do with liberation or female strength or anything like that. They were warriors, but they had this fantastic relationship with their horse, and it is a very strange relationship because it does actually exist in today's life. That if you see somebody doing dressage, or there is a definite sort of unspoken relationship between the rider and the horse, but it doesn't have to be female or anything. And the horse, therefore, is much more than the bull, much quieter thing, it's a much easier relationship. You do more or less, they do more or less have a certain control, more or less. They're not totally in control, because you're never really totally in control of the horse. But more or less you can be. And so I tried to do them, and I've done them reading or resting or getting ready for the battle. I've done past one which was getting ready for battle, and they're all mostly quiet. They're not in battle, they're mostly quiet reflections of the relationship between the woman and the horse. And so she's reading, or she's...
With your one preparing for battle, it
yes.
brings up something else about...
Yes, she had one mirror, one had a mirror, one had lipstick, one... Yeah. And they were preparing for this great battle, because they were, in fact, warriors.
But they were the kind of new symbol. There was something... This is the other strap.
The other side of...
Which is this sense of finding these little details, which I think for a lot of modern sculptors, they're much more interested in kind of essential, big, massive forms. And then and you take these little things like a book, or in the case of the Three Graces, they're gorgeous little high-heel shoes.
Three Graces, they were also part of the mythological, and that particular piece I got the idea for the composition of it from a photograph that I saw in a newspaper of three girls basically going out on a Saturday night and had far too much to drink. And they, one had a glass, the other had the bottle, and they were quite obviously past it. And there was a great picture of them, and you know, it was an article about society and how society has really gone to the dogs, because all the girls are and it was a very nice composition, and you know, the Three Graces were normally very sort of beautifully, and Canova did the famous one, obviously the three, and the sort of representing the purity of womankind and all that. And I thought, well, not really. And so I did a sort of humorous version of it. And that is also the nice thing, I think, about mythology. Whatever you choose as a subject, there are always humorous, and in the way it goes back to how it does reflect always reflects real things in life, whether it's an event in the past or a feeling or now of what we all do on a daily basis, or think about, or get up to, and so it's very, very nice theme to do. And I've done also sirens. They were half woman, half bird. I don't know where they originated, the sirens, but they, in the story of Odysseus, they were the siren calls, and he had to block up his ears and you didn't hear them and get the boat dashed on the rocks. Yeah. So, you know, you could translate that any way you liked in a modern context, I think. The siren calls. With
your Greek background,
yes.
How much was
that? I chose it because of that.
Do you think that came because that you were always looking for stories from Greek mythology and
not
art?
Particularly, no. I mean, all these things, for example, and we can move on now to the head, the fates. The fates are a Greek. Again, they were they were the mistresses of fate. and they're very old, and they exist in all mythologies. Every society has mythology. There's Celtic, Teutonic, Scandinavian, Indian, Egyptian, Japanese, Chinese. They all have the equivalent of these fates, and they were the spinners who held the thread of destiny in their hands, basically. So, which is why you see there's a sort of thread going round their necks, you see, and it was inescapable. They were inescapable. They represented what was inescapable in life. So the first one here created the life. The middle one was chance or destiny, and the spinner. So this was the weaver of the thread, the spinner of the thread, and then the last one there is the cutter of the thread, representing death. And so what they represent is the natural order of things. And they existed in all the mythology. In Teutonic mythology, they were called Norns. And Wagner has the Norns in the ring cycle in his opera. And I wanted to do something. I wanted to move on from the Amazons a bit, because, you know, you get bored. In fact, you get bored doing the same thing over and over again. And so I was looking for something to do, and also to do it in a slightly different form. So they were made in plaster rather than clay. I don't know those of you who've got the invitation with me doing the plaster thing. Anyway, they started off in plaster, and I would like to do them sort of 9 or 10, 9 feet high, or standing on the ground one day, if I can find somebody to sort of sponsor that. And so they would stand, 3 enormous great big. And that's basically, they are representing the mistresses of fate, they were basically, and that's how they came about.
And with these, it was interesting bringing up the idea that these ones were done in plaster as well.
Yes.
First. I mean, just from the practical point of view, some are done in clay, and then.
Yes.
But so you have different.
Most of them are done in clay. Yes, all of these were done in clay, and that big one was done in clay. But I just felt that the plaster. I have done plasters before. The original Europe and the Bull was plaster, and it's a different way of working where you're very more restricted by the material you're working with. So it doesn't allow you, plaster, to get too into detail or things, because it's very hard. It's a mixture between carving and modelling. So you pile on the plaster wet and let it dry, and then you have to rub it back or chip it off or whatever.
I mean, when I came to see them in the studio, and they were nearly finished, and I can't really describe, they were so stark and simple, you know, with these lines, these etched lines on them. They're very, very different to other work. And if you can imagine them, as Olivia said on the invitation card, there's a photo of them in their original state, which was clean, bright white. And we did have this discussion about how to, you know, what colour they would be in metal, whether it could be almost, they seemed very timeless, but also incredibly modern as well.
Well, all the pieces need to be, you kind of have to imagine what they might look, and that is the problem with a sculpture if you're a modeler rather than a carver. If you're carving stone, well, you know what you're getting from the beginning, whereas with modelling in either wax, clay or plaster, you are having to realize what it is going to look like in bronze, and it's always different. And you choose the colours, and you'll see all the colours are different and you make a decision about that. So it's hard to show anything. I couldn't really. Last time I showed the 7 deadly sins at the back of the gallery in plaster, and it was, I think, quite hard for anyone to imagine how they would look in bronze. And you really need to do that. I think cast everything.
Because that's then the next stage. I mean, the finishing the idea, getting the idea, drawings, whatever. And Olivia, the most beautiful draft.